I recounted for you the opinion of the Rambam that prophecy has no restrictions of either person, place, or time. The only restrictions on prophecy is the preparation of the prophet. That the prophet should be a person who is in complete control of one's heart, one's emotions. Nothing controls the prophet. The prophet is in complete control of his humanity, and the prophet is exceedingly wise and exceedingly broad-minded, and uses this broad-mindedness to understand the abstract, the understanding godliness. And when a person reaches this level of understanding where he sees and understands that things aren't the way they appear, that things are really different from the way they appear, the person has a realization that space-time are only relative. Space and time are not absolutes. Geometry is only relative to our existence. When the person realizes that things are not the way they appear to be, the person can begin to become a prophet. Maimonides is asked in the Moreh Nevuchim, or responds in the Moreh Nevuchim, the guide to the perplexed, why we have no prophets today. And the answer that he gives is, because we aren't happy. Does that tell you something about the ways of the Hasidim? The Hasidim, especially the great Hasidim, the Hasidic masters, strive to be happy under all circumstances. The Breslover Rebbe, Reb Nachman Breslover, was known to do all kinds of crazy things just to be happy, just to get people happy. Prophecy does not come from excessive fasting. It's possible, but that's not how to get prophecy. Prophecy comes from being a healthy person in control, with a healthy mind and a deep mind, thinking about godliness and following God's rules. And that's what the Lubavitcher Rebbe was, and that's what he taught people to be healthy people, people who were masters of their heart, not masters of their ego. And this again, I want to direct to Mizrachi. You pass yourself off as a rabbi, as a scholar. Whether you are a scholar or not, I don't know. You're definitely not a Kabbalist. And you definitely don't know the Rambam. Because if you knew the Rambam, you would have an altogether different perspective on people. And you would be open to the possibility that there are people far greater than yourself who do things differently from yourself. The Rambam did not study the way the Yeshiva world studies, nor did he teach that. The fact that the Rambam is the most popular book in the Talmud study, is something that's astounding. The reason is because there's no one who thought as clearly as the Rambam. But the study of the Rambam needs to have an open mind in understanding what the Rambam was all about. The Rambam was not a yeshiva boy. He studied in yeshiva. But his range and his spiritual experience was far different from the average yeshiva boy or kollel boy. An example, he had a student, Yosef ibn Shimon, who lived in Baghdad. And in Baghdad there was the great Goin, the Rosh Yeshiva, Rav Shmuel ben Ali, who claimed that Rambam was a heretic. So Rabbi Yosef ibn Shimon sent a letter to the Rambam asking him if he should open up a yeshiva to deny or to contradict the teachings of Rav Shmuel ben Ali. Imagine the Gadol Hador is asked, should I give up my practice of medicine in order to become a Rosh Yeshiva? Is that even a question? What will be the response of all the G'dayei Yisrael of today? The Rambam writes, you have your own parnasa. You don't need another parnasa, another means of livelihood. And when a person becomes dependent upon others, he loses his humanity. So why would you want to go ahead and put yourself at the compassion and at the sympathies of others when you have a good source of an income? Do you understand what he's saying? Better to be a doctor in your circumstance than to be a Rosh Yeshiva. So obviously Rambam was not the typical Yeshiva Bocher or the typical Koil Zitzer. Rambam's range, Rambam's breadth of personality was totally different. He understood people differently, and he understood the Torah differently. And were someone to practice to be like the Rambam, Rabbi Mizrachi would say that he'd be practicing another religion. Because anything that is different, deviates from his background, is another religion. It's not true. Torah mitzvahs are our religion. How we study Torah, how we earn our livings, how we practice is dependent upon the Rav, the rabbis who have molded our lives. But it's not a different religion. It's the same Torah from a different perspective. Rabbi Mizrachi, you need to learn Rambam, and you need to learn Tanya, and maybe a little bit of Zohar.